I feel like shit.
Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days.
It's just one of those
happy days. The weekend comes, let's not go home.
It's just one of those days where you don't wanna wake up. Everything is everybody sucks. You don't really know why, but you wanna justify ripping someone's head off. No human contact, and if you interact, your life is on contract. Your best bet,
Just knock it off, you scum bucket.
it's just one of those days. It's just one of
Monday,
those.
happy days.
It's just one of
Tuesday,
those.
happy days.
It's just one of those
Happy
days.
The weekend comes, let's not go home. Ready to make screams.
It's just one of those days, feeling like a freight train. First one to complain, leaves with the bloodstain. Damn right, I'm a maniac. You better shoot, cause I'm fucking up your program. And if you're stuck up, you just locked up. Next in line to get fucked up. Your best bet is to stay away, motherfucker. It's just,
I'm losing my cool.
it's all
Monday,
about,
happy days.
it's just one of
Tuesday,
those,
happy days.
it's just one of those
Happy
days.
The weekend comes, let's not go home. Ready to make screams. These days.
I feel like shit. My suggestion is to keep your distance. 'Cause right now I'm dangerous. Right now I'm dangerous.
Something's happening to the bonds.
My day keeps going this way and this way.
I'm gonna pop you one so you'll stop playing games.
Give me something great. Give me something great. I hope you know I pack a chainsaw. A chainsaw. A motherfucking chainsaw.
What?
So come and get it.
What we got here is a case of mistaken identity, you know? See, now this here,
Not Robert.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chief Moody, and welcome to episode 242 of the Mood of the Nation podcast. I guess you can call it a podcast or like a live show, but anyways, we're here. It's good to be back. It is good to be back. I know I was supposed to do a show prior to this interview type show, but I forgot that I had stuff to do on Tuesday, so that's why there wasn't an episode yesterday. But we're here now. This would be the first episode in what, four and a half months or something like that. And the reason why I was gone for so long was because, I'll be honest, as I said previously on one episode, I was just completely burnt out. But I'm all back and energized. I'm going to be trying doing it as more as I often can. I know, again, I've said that before, but this will be more like a weekly basis, which is why you won't just get a Mood of the Nation episode just tonight. You'll be getting another episode tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. And that's going to be the duration of the show, or not that, but the Mood of the Nation will be on every Thursday at 7 p.m. from now on, and I'm going to do as much as possible with that. And I do see some familiar faces in the chat, and wow, there's a lot of people watching the show tonight. I would imagine a lot of them are from David's show, Unity News Network, which, if that is the case, thank you guys very much for coming along. I will bring David on in just a moment or two, and yeah, a lot of new faces as well. Again, some familiar faces, which is really good to see, like Peter Walker. How you doing? Thank you very much for watching. Just trying to see if there's anyone else I missed out in terms of like familiar faces. And I've asked a question in the chat whether or not if the sound is good. So it looks like the sound is actually good and running. So that's fan dabby dozy. Anyways, so thank you all coming along for tonight. In terms of how you want to support the show, you can do so with a pinned comment there, which is for my PayPal. It's probably the best option at the moment in time. And I know it's not live on Rumble or on Odyssey, but considering the fact that I'm probably one of the few nationalist channels in terms of like proper ethno-nationalist channels on YouTube, I'm going to be live on YouTube as much as I possibly can until, if it gets shut down for whatever reason, I'll move over to either Odyssey or maybe Rumble. Rumble seems to be a lot more of a better platform from what I've heard. But until then, I will stick to YouTube as much as possible. And that's going to be every Thursday at 7 p.m. UK time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, without further ado, I will bring on my guest for this fine evening. So obviously, a lot of you have come along to watch this gentleman, another fellow Scotsman who it needs no introduction. He has been on other channels like Mark's PWR or Patriotic Weekly Review. And yes, I look forward to having him on the show. So let's give a round of applause to the host of Unity News Network, and that is David Clews.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. Good to see you. I'm glad to see some familiar faces who are missing their daily dose of UNN. They're addicts. They just crave the schizo racism that we give them on a daily basis.
Yeah, I do see a lot of them in the chat, and they are giving quite a few comments. So how long that's going to last, I don't know.
They are the most awful knuckle dragging, degenerate people, but they're also the best as well.
Yeah, they are. They really are. But and again, thank you guys for coming along and watching this fine episode. So, David, let's get right into it, shall we? So, it has been a while, as I said before, that I've been on the show here when it comes to that. It's been like 4 months. And during that time period, a lot has happened during then. There was actually a plan for me to actually do a PA camp episode, but again, I've been busy with other stuff. So my short review on the camp this year, really good stuff. I think there was about like 200 people that were there from what I can remember. Really good stuff with regards to that. And distance-wise, it was actually a lot better than I was expecting. So yeah, overall, really good stuff. But other than that, there's been a lot of stuff going on, a lot of tension going on when it comes to it. I have been hearing a lot of stuff going on in Glasgow, and it seems to me, from what I've heard about Glasgow, it's a mess, especially with St. Enoch's, that area. But a lot of open drug dealing going on with there, and a lot of beatings. In fact, there was one report I remember seeing about an old pensioner, like an old man, being beaten up by a bunch of savages, if you will. It's a mess. It really is becoming. I think Glasgow has completely fallen at this point. But what do you think, David?
I was actually talking with someone earlier, Karen and Simon Elmer. I was on there. It was Karen Dodd's show, and with Simon Elmer as well. And what I said was, it was the speed with which it's happened to Glasgow, and it really has caught a lot of people off guard. And that is the problem with demographic replacement. Is it is like it is a tsunami, basically. And you can go from a city which is reasonably ethnically homogenous. Yes, there has been immigration in, and I mean, look, no two ways about it. It changes the country entirely. It really doesn't matter where these people are from or their backgrounds, and it is real. Demographics are real, and you just can't deny it. I still see a lot of people still in denial about it. They still can't get their head around it. I mean, it's interesting, like I know you guys refer to yourselves as ethno-nationalists, etc. I mean, I just think there isn't even an argument there anymore. I mean, I could understand maybe 10, 15 years ago having that argument, but now, I mean, I just don't understand why people can't get it. These people are totally foreign, and they are totally different, and it's going to completely change what your city's like, and that's just it. And I mean, again, it's you could kind of cope with the mass sort of European immigration, but even then, if 50, well, I don't know how many Norwegians there are in the world, but if 10 million Norwegians moved, I'm sure there would be fine and no problems, but they still change the overall nature of the country. But to have sub-Saharan Africans, to have people from the subcontinent, I mean, it really is just the worst people from anywhere you could possibly have. And I mean, and the thing is as well, this is the other thing people don't realize, they're also the scummiest from their own countries. See all the Syrians that left in 2016, 17, 18, they were all the scummiest ones. No one liked them. You know, we're actually taking the dross from the dross countries.
Yeah, and even adding on to that, what I've also seen is our own people are just outright defending these types of people. Like there were some people, of course, being liberal white women that are coming out and defending them. Of course, some of them are even going on as far as saying like, "Oh, I would rather have these people than
I know.
the dreaded far right." And you just think, I know it really shouldn't be that much of a surprise at this point, but what on earth is it going to take for them to actually realize that this whole immigration thing is not only just a massive problem, but is a detriment to the country? I don't understand it. It's astonishing to see all of that. I mean,
Well,
yep.
is the thing I've really learned is over the last 2 years is decades of subversion, and it's so insidious, the subversion. And if you think about it, like you've been born into that from birth. Your parents, especially if you, well, the thing is, what age are you?
I'm 32.
32. So you're a wee bit young. Are your parents boomers or not?
My parents had me when they were quite young.
Right, so they're not boomers then. Well, that's
No, I would say like they're more like Gen Xers, but my grandparents are like the boomer generation type of thing.
And again, it's not really these people's fault. Like they've been utterly brainwashed. You know, it's like my mum. I keep explaining to my mum like what really happened in the Second World War, and she still goes and watches Netflix, like the like the baker of Auschwitz and stuff like that, and the story of love, love in the concentration camp, all the stuff that there is. They just can't get away from it. And look, many of them are based, and this is the thing, they're still the only generation that is still based. And this is the other big problem we've got is I don't see this huge based youth coming through. Like, if anything, they are the vanguard of the regime. Clearly, there is a sizable chunk that aren't, maybe 10, 20%. But I mean, still 20% versus 80% is not good numbers.
Yeah, what's even the worst part about it is you still get all the propaganda that's been just cramming down their heads at this point. I remember seeing something earlier, I think it was this week, where a lot of the schools are having the young boy pupils teaching them about how to treat women and all of that. And I'm thinking, right, okay, but first off, shouldn't the parents be in charge of that? Like, why do the schools have to be in the forefront of that? And so that's first of all. And second of all, I wonder if they would do that to any of the non-white schools you would see across the country, which, of course, for me, I highly doubt they would do that. It's only just the white men that are being taught this is how you treat women. So
you've got to thank adolescents for that. The TV show that they used to pump that. I mean, this is, I mean, I hate using the 1984 analogies because they're very cliched, but it really is kind of like that when you have the inner party and the outer party and the party members who are basically the whites, and they are kept to all the rigidity. They have to do everything. And then the proletariat, who are like the foreigners, they're just basically allowed to do whatever they want. Yeah. We are held to the most ridiculously high standards. And this is where I keep arguing to people. We need to break away from conservatism, because so many nationalists or people who are nationally minded still fall back on conservatism. They still, I'm going to be a good citizen, and I'm going to look. Yes, if we had a country that was ours and cared for, like, that's what I was like. See all this stuff about benefits. I was saying to people, look, it doesn't matter if people are claiming benefits or what they're doing. The whole system's knackered, right? You don't be pure about it. Like, do what you need to do. And once, if there is a time we are ever in charge, then yes, no one will be like sitting on their arses doing nothing. People should work and no one should be lazy, but we don't have that type of country. And that's where I think we have a real role to push back on, like, conservatism within nationalism. There has to be a radicalism about the work that we do, and get people to realize that we're in opposition to the system in its entirety.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Another part of that is like the whole two-party system where everyone's still crabbing onto, where it's like, oh well, my dad and my grandfather have voted for this party for many years, so I might as well follow suit. It's like, guys, like the two-party system, like there's no differences between the Tories and the Labour. There's really no. You can even say that with all the other established political parties. There's no differences whatsoever. I mean, at this point, the SNP are basically just liberals who support well, they claim to be a nationalist quote unquote party, but they want open borders. They want to bring in the third world as much as humanly possible. And with regards to the whole independence argument, which I think after the whole 2014 referendum, that should have been the end of it as far as I'm concerned with that. But they still want to have another vote for that. And really, ultimately speaking, it's basically them just wanting to open the borders so that they can flood the country with more migrants. Yeah.
See, the thing is, I mean, I do get the argument that a vote for independence would be a shock to the system, but it's not a shock to the system because they'd immediately want to rejoin the EU. They would allow Faslane to stay as a NATO base. They would allow more NATO bases, and they would then flood the country. So it would literally just be this actually worse than on steroids. I mean, I've said that to people. I mean, I'm always opposed to Scottish independence. I just will be. But if someone said, look, you'd be out NATO, you'd be out the EU, you'd be a completely sovereign, independent nation, you would be anti-Zionist, I'd be like, right, okay, I'm not going to be against it. I'm not going to vote for it. I'll see what happens. You're never going to get that.
No, never will. It's yeah, it should have been back in 2014, that whole referendum. But again, there's many people that are still hoping that we get an independent Scotland. But again, it just goes back to the old argument of they just want independence, but then they want Scotland to rejoin the European Union, which again, I've said it before on my show, it just completely defeats the whole purpose of becoming an independent nation. I've even got into arguments with people about, oh, well, that's not entirely true. Like, we would be our own sovereign nation. It's like we would be part of like the European Union, which is a bureaucratic union, which we would have no say on who we vote in terms of the European elected officials and all of that. And also, more importantly, in my opinion, the currency, we would have to use either our own currency or we'd have to use the euro. And he's like, no, we would never have to use the euro. It's like, look at all the other nations, the European nations that are part of the EU. The vast majority of them have to use the euro for the currency. And it's like, that doesn't change the fact that they're own sovereign nations. And I'm like, clearly, I'm not going to get to you. You're being deliberately disingenuous. And that was like the end of that conversation at that point. But
I mean, the thing is over the last 2 years as well, I have definitely moved to a belief in more like pan-European nationalism. Like, clearly there's big differences between all European nations. But when we're at a stage where like, less than 6% of the global population, it does get to a stage where I think there has to be, and I would be in favor of some sort of, European racial alliance. But I mean, clearly that is never going to happen. And, I would support like borderless travel. I think all these things would be great. I mean, I think Britain would probably still have its own currency, but having a shared currency in mainland Europe's actually pretty sensible. Like with the Dutch, the French, the Germans, the Belgians, it makes sense having a shared currency. But it's the EU as it currently stands it's horrific. It's the worst organization it is. I actually put up a video on Telegram. I mean, it's just awful. It's flooded with foreigners, and it's awful. So we just, as I say, I just think we need to go to war kind of with all these institutions, and the EU is one. But with Scotland being brutal about it as well, there's so many people that support the SNP. It's like a reverse snobbishness. This always hit home for me. I'll tell you the story. I remember going to the PA demonstration outside the hotel at Erskine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Were you there? Were you at that one at all?
I'm pretty sure I was there. Like, was that the very first one?
Yeah, I think it was. And it was Kenny Smith was there back in the day as well, old school. Anyway, I remember looking at the comments, and there was one comment that really struck out for me. and it was a guy that said, I was brought up in Erskine, and I'm totally ashamed that people in Erskine are like that. And I looked the guy up, and he had like a reasonably decent job. And so what that guy was he obviously came from Erskine, which was a pretty poor sort of working class area in the 90s, 2000s. But now he's made it. He's got a good job and he's successful. So, fuck you, fuck those racists. And that is what people do, because like they've come from reasonably just average backgrounds. Now they've got something. They have a stake in society. They have a stake in maintaining the system. So, like, you have to be an anti-racist at that point. Whereas before, like, people just didn't give a shit. And that's why what's been going on in Glasgow has been brilliant. Like, when they've been getting these pedophiles out and foreigners. And if you listen to it, like, these are like Glasgow guys, right? They don't give a shit. And that's what you need, more people like that. You need a critical mass of people who aren't like reliant on paying the next mortgage, or they have had a bit of rough and tumble. We need that.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a lot of people from Glasgow that are definitely seeing what's going on and definitely are waking up to it. I mean, there's even places like Govan people are kind of questioning at this point. There's actually a couple of videos I've watched on Instagram where like people who are like either still live in Govan or they were born in Govan, but then they moved out and they just don't feel safe anymore. And then you kind of have to ask yourself, well, why is that? Why is it that they don't feel safe in Govan anymore? And a lot of times people would say like, well, they don't say like the quiet part out loud, excuse me, but they would say stuff like, well, it's probably because of the like migrants type of thing, but they don't really say that out loud because they don't want to be labelled as a racist.
They still whisper it. I mean, I remember that as well at the Erskine demo. People were saying, I mean, I've got no issue as long as they come here legally.
Yeah,
they're just not vetted. So even in opposition, people still repeat the approved talking points. It's amazing.
It's just like at this point in time, like racist is still such a very powerful word for a lot of people. It's like, I just want to ask these people, right, what exactly is worse in society? Someone who is a quote unquote racist who will say like a slur to somebody or whatever, or would it be a pedophile? Because I would think that a pedophile is definitely way worse.
A racist is worse than a pedophile in the eyes of the masses.
Yeah.
A pedophile, they would say, is someone who's done wrong, who is maybe slipped up, but they can always be cured. Whereas they'd be like a racist or an NAZI is someone that just can't be debated with. You have to punch them. That's what they would say. 100% on that. And that's why as well, if you look at it, when like see these protests against Nazis, even then they look down their noses at that. Like, whereas if these people were driving racists out of their community, I guarantee the whole of the Scottish establishment and everyone would be all, well, there is no room for racism. They would. Yeah. But nonsense, fine.
Yeah, it's just absolutely disgusting when it comes to that. And I think it's about time that people need to realize that racism, essentially what we've all been saying for a long while, is it's basically just or anti-racism is just basically anti-whiteism. That's essentially what it is, because a lot of times the only racial group that we're seeing that are being taught that you can't do this, you can't say that, you have to change your ways, you have to feel guilty for the sins of your ancestors past and all of that, are white people. You never see anything like that with any other racial group. If anything, when it comes to any other racial group, being it blacks or Asians or Jews and all of that, they're being taught like to embrace their ancestry. It's beautiful, like your people and all of that. You've been treated wrong by the white colonizers and all of that. And at this point, like you just have to think, like, I wish people would just be more waking up to this, because like,
well, it's again, I keep explaining this, and it's so important. You don't need to build gulags anymore, right? You just don't need to do it. All you need to do is put someone in a house and give them a £1,500 mortgage every month. Chief Obvious from Toffee. Do you know what? There's a Scouse question as well. For every fucking base Scouser that's on I'll give you 1,000 fucking rabid open borders ones. For every James Costello, what do you know? I miss James Costello. Don't take any of his shite.
Right.
They're just say to someone, like, you've got a mortgage of £1,000 a month, and you've got a car payment, you've got a mobile phone payment, and then so what are they going to do? Be a radical? Like that's all. It is financial slavery. People are kept in.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just sorry, I'm just checking a lot of notification, but that's fine and dandy. Excellent. All right. So let's kind of move on from there. Wow, I got like a £5 donation, which I mean, thank you very much. Yeah, excellent. Again, if people want to support the show, the PayPal link is just up there. It's probably the best way to donate. Again, if you want to, that would be much appreciated with that. But let's move on from there. So, of course, Glasgow, horrific situation at the moment, but hopefully more people will wake up to it. Now, one other thing that I was thinking of during my 4-month hiatus was that I'm seeing a lot of stuff that a lot of white liberal women are doing, kind of going back to that in a way, where I'm just thinking, like, the more of this is going on, I guarantee there's a lot more people who are just wishing that we would just reduce the rights of like white women. And I know that might be a bit of a hot take for some people, but a lot of stuff has been going on, especially with the case like what's her name, Lindsay. It's in America, if I remember.
The tranny one. The tranny
No. It was a woman who who was married. They had 3 kids.
That's right. I know it.
She had like a mental breakdown because it was like a bit too much.
She killed
for
her kids. Yeah,
and then killed her kids. Yeah, and it's like, and what astonishes more, what astonishes me more about that is that there's actually people that are outright defending her and actually
she had a crowdfund, didn't she?
Yeah, a crowdfund like based on what she's done, and I'm thinking, what? Like, yeah, Lindsay Clancy, I think her name is. Yeah, like just to make sure. But I remember like just looking at that, thinking, I can't believe we're at a point in our society where a woman does this to her children because of like mental health issues or whatever. And yet people are just like defending her, like, because, well, you have to realize that like she's going through a really tough time and all of that. And I'm thinking, you all sound exactly like Zionist propaganda, because that's exactly what this is essentially. Because it's really as frustrating, just to say. Yeah, Lindsay Clancy was her name, and I've seen a lot of videos on X there just now where there's a lot of people that are doing like a hashtag, say it was like I'm Lindsay too or something like that, and it's them, all these women that are like holding their children, they're crying in front of the camera, and you're basically given this idea that, oh, just being a mother is like so tough. I wish I was going out there and partying hard and, you know, getting gangbanged by all different men and all of that. And it's just like, why would these women prefer that over motherhood? I will never understand it. That's why I always have a jealousy with a lot of the older generation, because they would never have to go through any of this type of stuff back then, as far as I'm aware. You know, there wasn't any of this like propaganda of like women need to be freer and, you know, you don't need a man and all this and that. You know, there was the classic of, you know, man and woman get together, they get married at some point, they have children, and it's just really part of the whole natural order at the end of the day. But now it's so corrupted. It's beyond the pale at this point.
With the women question, if we want to call it, again, they have been subjected to just like utter brainwashing, like feminism, all the like Andrea Dworkin types that have just shoved it. Women tend to be very conservative, so they will do what, again, the government or the regime is asking them to do. That's why, you know, if you went back to, I don't know, perhaps Central Europe in the 1930s, they were dancing to a different step and behaved in a different way. As a mass, women do tend to be compliant. They do tend to like being told what to do. So if they're being told to be woke, if they're being told to be empowered, they'll do all these things. This is why fundamentally, in my opinion, you can't have women making frontline political decisions,
No.
You just can't. It's a no-no. That's not to say that women can't be involved in politics or play a clear role in it, but it has to be men that makes the decisions in it. And we just have to be supportive of women. I think as well, what's happened, see, because of the breakdown of family and society, women do feel alone. Like, this is the problem again about why we're being outbred by, say, like Pakistani women. Pakistani women will still be helped by their wider family. Like, I joke about this, they'll go to their house and make chapatis and laugh and talk with their friends. White women don't have anything like that. They don't have support networks. They don't have good aunts. They've not had, for decades, of stability with marital breakdown, with divorce. So they're kind of just on their own. And I think they'll be supporting that from a sense of despair. And I think that's why abortion has gone up so much. That's why these stories happen, because women just feel lost. They want a strong man. They want strong leaders to guide them. And they don't have that. And that's what they've always wanted. And they've shown that when they have it, they're quite happy. And I mean, in Britain specifically, the state has become like a surrogate father now, and the government can kind of replace a man, because look, we've been emasculated as well. We don't have the earning power that we used to have, the skills and jobs that we used to have. So women have been brought in. It's just been a total mind fuck. And again, it's like, and this has taken me a while to get here, is behind every woman pushing these liberal talking points, you just have to imagine like a certain merchant rubbing their hands. that's who's really doing it.
Yeah, indeed. But yeah. So, I mean, seeing that when it comes to it, like I do like women, I do respect women, and it's just the whole propaganda that we're seeing today it's just getting worse and worse. And yeah, I think when it comes to men, you're right, they're just completely emasculated or demasculated.
They are. And the thing is, this is why, again, people don't like Muslims. And it's another reason behind it, because look, I don't support Muslims. I don't like the whole culture, but they still have that, community. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if someone messes with one of their mates, they'll all be around to help them. Like, they still do stuff together. They still go to the mosque together. We just don't have that. Like, do you have that obviously where you live? Do you have mates, a real close circle, people that would fight for you? We're all on our own. We're all atomized. We've all just been thrown to the wolves. And the only place that still kind of does have that in Britain is Northern Ireland. You still have that in loyalist areas, not so much Republican areas, but definitely in loyalist areas. These guys are all brought up together. It's a shared culture, a shared race, shared history. And that's why they can still mobilize and put people out. We've got none of that now. It's awful. The only normal people still out there are like working class people. Yeah. Like, you go to like Clydebank shopping centre, there's still like women in their 20s. They're pushing their prams. They still have babies. They still go out. They still work. It's the kind of sort of middle class that's been utterly decimated.
I agree. Like, and also just to say, because I've said this somewhat before on the show, and I've been sort of criticized for being somewhat classist on the show with regards to that, saying like, oh, a lot of the middle class people are, like type of lefties type of thing. And obviously I know that not all middle class people are like that, but when you look at the overall behaviors of the middle class when it comes to like university students and all of that, yeah, a lot of them are from that class bracket, or whatever you want to call it, or from that class group. And a lot of them are, very bizarre people.
They really are. And these people do tend to live in cities as well. Yeah. So they are fully on board the multicultural agenda. It will be some Eritrean will be bringing them their Vietnamese goat slop. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. They'll have a foreigner will do their nails. They'll get an Uber Like they are, as my good friend Alphabet Cat says, the metropolitan liberal middle class are some of the worst people. I mean, because they are, and as I say, they fear going back to what they once were. And a class is a very British thing, but it is a real thing as well, and it still does play a big impact on the decisions people make. And the thing is that it also exists with the middle class, because it was funny, because I remember when the media did the hit pieces on me, they were like, oh, this guy went to a private school, now he lives in a council estate, and that's why he's so bitter, and that's why he's so angry. I mean, like, they still have to kind of justify that you only become like this if you somehow lose out on something, which is just bullshit.
Yeah, it's pure nonsense when it comes to that. Like, a lot of people tend to have these opinions because of their own experiences, whether it be someone they know personally, or even like first-hand experiences with regards to that. I mean, I've turned to nationalism proper nationalism back in 2020 with the whole George Floyd riots that were going on. That was like my big wake-up call to see that, oh, actually, it's not really left versus right. This is more like a very racial issue that's going on, because what we've seen with what was it, Minneapolis, that was happening with that riot, and just the amount of destruction that happened during that time, and just to see like how, of course, infamously, the statues were being torn down, not just in America but all across the West, and you think, wow, this really is a racial issue. That it's not to do with like right-wingism or like conservatism or anything like that at all. This is clearly like a European, like, white issue that we're seeing at the moment, and that's what really woke me up to that. But
there's been a lot of instances like that, and I think the one recently that woke up a lot of people was like the Henry Novak case, because like obviously Novak isn't necessarily an Anglo-Saxon name, but all the Indians saw was a white boy. Like he wasn't, is he English, is he, and this is when I always say to people, like when I talk about like the pan-European stuff, is you go to any bar or supermarket in Europe, people won't know what country you're from until you open your mouth. So if you think about that, every non-white, they just see us all as white. And that's it. It really doesn't matter if you're from Poland, from northern Spain, from France, from Germany, from Scandinavia. They see you as a white person. And all white people are oppressors.
Yep. Oppressors, and like the fault of like the ills of their people's like history and all of that. It's like, wow, it's just but even when it comes to that, that's what definitely woke me up to it. And we can maybe like move on to something else, and I thought that this would be a good segue into this topic. And I know it's something you've covered on your show, I think a few times now, but the is it James Ardy, the gentleman's name is? The
Jason Ardy.
Jason Ardy, yeah, that's the fraudster that I did follow a little bit, and I was following that for a bit myself, and just the way of how like the media were portraying him as if like, oh, check this out, like he's a professor and he's black and all of that, and I'm just thinking, good God Almighty. But then of course the whole stuff came out that he was a fraudster and all this stuff, and there was a list of things that he was caught being fraudulent about. Like there was one, I'm kind of laughing like even just thinking about it, but there was one in particular. He was doing a marathon, and I think he like broke his leg, but he still continued on doing it. And I'm just like, who the hell would read that and think, oh yeah, that sounds really legitimate?
Well, the thing is as well, I think that like a lot of people on the left have kind of got this wrong. It's not really about Jason Ardy. People's real attacks have been against the system that enabled it to happen. You know, he was collateral damage in it. Look, he was just a scammer, right? He saw an opportunity and he went with it. People get a bit annoyed at me when I say it. I actually feel a bit bad for the guy, to be honest with you. His family's topped himself. It's not exactly pleasant. but he was really just a symptom of the system. And I think a lot of the anger that people were expressing wasn't directed against him. It was directed against the system where like a blagger can basically blag his way to the top because he's black and lie about everything, and white people and the system will laud him. I mean, if you've watched the clips of them when they meet him, it's like they actually treat him as like a pet.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing is as well. Like I clearly believe in the difference of races and everything else, but I do also believe in trying to achieve some form of mutual respect. They treated him like their wee pet. You know, they wanted to like dress him up and say, "Oh, look, we now have a black man," and it's actually really patronizing. But he went along with it. He embraced it, but he knew he was also living a lie. And I think probably the fact that lie was exposed was just too much for the guy. And this the reaction from like, again, I hate using these terms, but the reaction from the left has just been hysterical over it. Like people are saying that, I mean, they said he was lynched and stuff like that.
Yeah, what was it
mental?
Was it metaphorically lynched or something like that?
No, they actually just said he was lynched by the media.
So
they never even said metaphorically. They just said he was lynched. It was a public lynching.
Wow. Oh my God. It's I also did see like I think there was like a mass gathering. I think it was in London, if I'm not mistaken, that whole gathering. And like, there was a huge amount of people. And I know there was a lot of people that were making their pieces about like all the oppression of black people in countries like Britain and all of that, and the systematic racism that we're experiencing. And I'm just like, look, guys, if it's that bad, why not just go back to your ancestral homelands then?
Yeah.
I know it's not like it's a bit of a cliche to say at this point, but there are actual African nations that have a right to return to. So it's like they have no problem going to those nations. But from what I can gather from these types of people, they always talk about how Africa is this great continent and you colonizers like stolen from us and blah blah blah. But they still want to maintain, they want to still live here. So basically, you want to talk shit about white people, white culture, white history, and all of that. But you still want to benefit from the stuff that we invented, essentially. So,
but again, like these people have been like they watched blooming Black Panther and thought Wakanda was real and stuff like that. So that I mean, basically they were unleashed in the spring of 2020 with the whole George Floyd stuff and. That's it. I mean, they just believe all that utter garbage, and they are so vicious with it as well as you point out. And again, I do say this to people, and people get upset about it. But if you really scratch the surface, and I've had many interactions like this with people who are non-white, when push comes to shove, they just don't like you. I mean, they really don't. Like they just don't like you, and they're not that upset if bad things happen to you or your country. They just have no buy-in whatsoever, and they're just not our people.
Yeah, like I think I've even seen something like that on was it X or was it YouTube? But there was this black woman who was at work and she was doing like maybe it was TikTok or something like that. But basically, she was doing something with her phone. Or whatever, a white guy comes up, an older gentleman, older white guy comes up to her and is like, basically kind of playing around, like, kind of joking and being jovial and all of that. He goes away, and then she just makes this comment about like really like snarky remark kind of thing, and it's like you can't even really be nice to these people because even when they be nice and friendly to you, but behind your back, that's when like the mask completely slips off and what they really think about you. And it's just, it's it's frustrating. But then again, like you get people in this country that still will defend these people no matter what.
Yeah, and again, the big mistake, I see this all the time, is everybody individualizes anything. They'll be like, but I've got a mate, or I know this one guy. Look, all right, there's always an exception to every rule. Okay, and you can find it, but we're talking on a general basis here. And on a general basis, like they're just they're just different. They clearly look totally different, act totally different, behave totally differently, and that's it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, another bad thing about it is it's being used for within white society. I mean, there was a video on X. I don't know if you've seen it, David, or maybe people in the chat. I don't know if they've seen it, but there was this. It was in a bus, and there was like a group of young lads who were kind of. Well, there was one lad in particular who was like acting like the big hard man. He's got like a screwdriver. He's got something in his pocket. Basically acting like as if he's all big and bad and stuff. And it's like, gee, I wonder where they got that from. It's probably because of like a lot of these migrants that are moved into the areas. But oh no, there was that. Oh, there was another one. It's like I think it was in Glasgow. I think it was in Saint Enoch or whatever it was. There was this guy dressed head to toe, completely in black. He was doing like the whole black rapper things, and it's like, mate, you look like a complete fanny. Like, just stop.
Well, again, what always interests me about rap is it does show you how downstream everyone is from controlled. I'm behaving myself because we're on YouTube. Controlled media, like and the music industry. People talk a lot about Hollywood. They don't realize the impact the music industry plays. Do you know who the biggest producer behind hip hop was? It was a guy called Lear Cohen. Funnily enough, and again, with you think about hip hop was not actually a black thing, but hip hop was pushed on blacks, and then now rap hip hop, like every country in Europe, like you go to anywhere, you hear rap music in their own language. It's just ridiculous. You're not from the ghetto. You're not from South Central LA, but all they're doing is just repeating what they hear. They're repeating much higher above. And as you see, when you hear that, it is the most ridiculous sounding and looking thing you'll ever see.
Indeed. I think there was something about like Tupac I've seen like recently where he was like as like a proto black rapper and all of that. Like he didn't start off like the way what people would know him today, but he was actually somewhat effeminate. Like back
really
in the day.
gay.
Yeah, and then like there was this woman, I can't remember the woman's name, but she was quite significant in that whole hip hop scene or whatever. And I guess you could say like she was quite an influence to the point where he became what people would know him today as like Tupac type of thing. But yeah, it's just rap is it's not exactly like a good genre of music. I mean, I've listened to it when I was a lot younger, but I went through a phase. Okay, I think a lot of us went through a phase like at some point, but yeah, it's not that great of a genre. So.
Yeah, I mean, the most powerful music mogul in the world is Sir Lucian Grange, and he runs Universal Music. Basically, Universal run everything now. There's no independent record labels anymore, and Sir Lucian Grange frequently holds fundraisers for the Israeli Defense Forces. So it just tells you all you need to know where everything comes from there. It's an awful, awful, awful world, the music industry, and there's no one independent now in it. Like, that's the thing. Music's just terrible now. It's just awful. There's no dynamism to it or anything like that. It's just dull and stale, just like most stuff.
It's basically just all slop at this point.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the music you would hear like back in the day, like from the 50s or 60s or 70s, maybe even like the 80s and all of that. You know, I know music can be like very subjective, but at least that there was a sense of like there's like a timeless quality to a lot of the music you would hear back then. But now it's just like, well, whatever is like popular in the charts, then just pump out like a bunch of slop. Like it's basically McDonald's like in music form. So it
was funny. I was watching your intro. Who made that for you?
No, I basically it was from another channel that I just copied and used it for the intro. So,
do you know any of the relevance of it at all?
Well, I know Limp Bizkit is like it's like a cross between Limp Bizkit and the theme Happy Days. I think the show is called.
Yeah, and do you know who's doing the dance in it?
No.
Henry Winkler, who's doing the dance, and he's of course played the Fonz, and he's actually doing a traditional Yiddish dance. So he took the character of the Fonz, which was supposed to be the all American guy, and he did that dance scene in a traditional Yiddish dance.
Oh, well, I did not know that. Looks like I'm going to have to change my intro.
Learn something every day. Well, do you know what? I actually didn't know that up until a few days ago when I watched it. There was actually something on X about it that they said that Henry Winkler insisted on doing that, and that's why when he's dancing like that, it's like a Yiddish form of dance that he's doing. And it's interesting as well with like Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit. It shows you the energy like young guys had in the 90s and early 2000s. Have you ever seen the footage from like Woodstock 94 where they had and they just burnt the place to the ground, basically?
I remember seeing something like that. Yeah.
And there is actually like a conspiracy theory that they saw the anger that people had and the energy that white music was producing, and that's why they had to that's why they had to move away from it. They had to direct white music towards things that wouldn't like get like mosh pits. They were worried we'll have a mosh pit.
Aye, indeed. Let's see here. Just have a look at the chat real quick, just see what's been said. Again, I'll appreciate everyone coming along and watching the show. Again, no chances there. Of course, calling me Chief Rabbi now. Well, I mean, if I were to jokingly rename myself, I would go more like Rabbi Moodstein, but that's just me. So I'm sure that will get taken out of context. But anyways, yeah, so let's see here. Winkler has that stereotypical Jewish creepy vibe too. Let's see here with that. Just have to look and see. Oh, here we go. White excellence is suppressed, so no wonder good music is lacking. I wouldn't be surprised if Jewish producers are suppressing every talented white artist. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that were to be the case as well. Like people who are legitimately talented and then all the
can't
Jewish,
make it.
Yeah, can't make it. Yeah,
you can't. You just won't make it. Like what they do now is they just have like writers who pump out all these songs, and Lucien Grange will decide who gets it. So that's why like they'll just say, well, Taylor Swift gets that one, or anyone's. Whereas other people, they're just not able. And see, the other thing is as well, people would say, well, they could go on YouTube or they could go on. The algorithm just screws you now. The algorithm is gamed to stop independent content creators, no matter what they're doing, breaking through. So the system's sewn up.
Yeah, definitely. Damn it, there's actually something I was about to ask, but well, actually, it just came to my head just now. So I know people might have asked you before, David, in terms of like where do we go from here in terms of like our people and all of that, because and please correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, but I believe what you believe, that there's no real political solution out of this. It's not like we're going to vote our way out of this or anything like that at all. Because I used to believe in the idea that maybe, just maybe, we can vote, but the way things have been going with both the general elections and also the local elections, it's just very black pilling at this point. So I would ask you, David, like, where do you see us moving forward in terms of like, you know, white people, say, getting together or anything like that at all?
Well, like again, I'm not saying it out of being a dickhead. I'm just saying it out of being honest to people. Like the one thing that really hit home for me was when I found this out. Every single day in the city of London, They trade $5 trillion every single day in currency, right? $5 trillion every single day is traded, right? This Britain is a golden goose for a lot of people making huge amounts of money. What has been done to us hasn't been done by accident or incompetence. It's been done to us deliberately. So we can never have faith that the system who has done this to us is then going to somehow not do it to us. Like, why would it do that? Because we've appealed to their good nature, because we've given them. And I see people doing that all the time. Like, oh, well, if immigration's harming you, then maybe you should stop it because blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work like that. We are in what I call the post-1945 open society, which was invented by Karl Popper. George Soros' society is famously that, which is everything has to be done to stop what happened in Europe in the 1930s from happening again. So in order to stop that, deracinate, tear apart, cultural Marxism, tear down the existing order. And we're fighting against that. And we're not only just fighting against the political class, we're fighting against the media, the banks, the entertainment industry, the sports, and all of it. So I just think this notion that somehow we're going to turn it all around and we're going to bring everything back, it's garbage. However, the system will collapse in on itself because that is what always happens. That is what these people always do. Once it gets to about 85, 90 years, every civilization they've created, they've never created a civilization, but every time they've been in charge, it's always gone tits up. And that's from history. And we're approaching that sort of time period now where there's so much debt in the system. There's so much lack of productivity. The immigrant, none of it's working. And the system itself will collapse. And I think that's going to happen probably come the 2030s. And that'll be 100 years since the last Great Depression. And then we may have an opportunity to do something about it. But I think the notion that we as individuals are somehow going to collectivize to break the system, I just don't think that's happening. But that's not to say that we as individuals can't play a role. Our job should be to weaken the system, to bring people out of it, to put people in a mindset where they are racially conscious, where they are recognizing what is going on, and then they can live in opposition to that system. And we just need to get to a critical mass of that. And that's what happened in any regime that has fallen, is a committed small group of organized people has managed to shake the system to its core.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. I can't believe we're all almost at 10 o'clock just now, which is actually.
I'll do another 20 minutes, half an hour. All right.
Yeah, that's fine. Perfect.
But the double time though this time.
That's fine with me. Perfect. Well, what we can do for this part is we can have a bit of a Q&A section, really. So if there's people in the chat who would like to ask a question for myself or David about really anything, then please feel free to ask your questions in the chat just now. While you're at it, if you still want to support the show, the PayPal link is just up there as a pinned comment. Again, if you want to send a donation, whatever amount would be, again, that would be really helpful and really thankful with regard to that. But what we'll do for the next half an hour or so, we'll do a bit of a Q&A for, again, questions for myself or for David, and then we'll go on from there. So I'll just wait and see if there's any questions to come through in the chat just now. And it could be anything really in terms of questions. So please feel free to ask them in the chat just now. But while we're waiting, I do enjoy the conversation, and I hope everyone else is enjoying the conversation. Again, quite a big turnout tonight, which again, I would imagine that's because of both it's David on the guest for the show, and because I think of the time of the show usually, because normally I would stream every 6 p.m. what be it Thursday or whatnot, but I'm thinking about doing a stream. I'm going to be doing another stream tomorrow, and I'm thinking about probably streaming at 7 p.m. rather than 6, because it seems to be like from 7 p.m. and onwards. That's where you get a lot more viewership for whatever reason when it comes to it. But why that is, I don't know. It's only taken me this long to kind of like figure that out with that. But anyways, let's see here. I think there's a couple of questions that came through just now, so I'll see if I can get them up here just now in a moment. Let me see here. There's a score. Here's one. Let's see. David Clews, is it true you are once appeared on New Faces in 1979?
Well, I wasn't born in 1979, so that would rule me out of that.
There you go. This one from Hazdak. What's the solution to the shite we are in? I think we've kind of covered that. Or
Well, I have to say to people, look, do you honestly think a couple of fucking jock fannies on the internet on a Wednesday night are going to have the answer to that? Come on. If anyone's on the internet telling you they've got a solution, I guarantee you there'll be a cost to it, and there'll be merch you have to buy, and there'll have to be all these things you've got to do. Look, there is no easy solution to this, right?
No.
This is decades and decades of planning, subversion. Like if there was a simple solution to it, like I think people would be doing it by now. And like people again have this belief in, and I'm not criticizing you, but the Hollywood ending, right? Who invented the notion of a Hollywood ending? The fucking Hollywood, right? So there you go. Nothing that comes out of that is good. There is no easy solution to this mess, I'm afraid. And even then, say there was a solution. Well, what would it look like? What would the answer be? It's really tough. It's really, really grim. And I think as well, my issue with a lot of people, and especially with like the whole Restore crowd, was they were promising people pups like, oh, everyone's gone, we're gonna do all this, we're gonna do all that. Look, you have to just be honest with people and like not drift off into fantasy and deal with things that are absolutely tangible and things that aren't. But I suppose that doesn't sell. People want to be taken into flights of fancy, and that's where like guys that are just, but that only lasts so long. Realism, like Mike Tyson always said, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Right. Definitely true. Here's one from the Woodlander. How you doing, sir? He writes, the UK digital currency blueprint goes through Parliament later this year. Bank of England say it should be ready by 2030. Is it growth in data centers tied into the digital currency?
I'm sure it is. I think these data centers are all being built for all sorts of nefarious stuff. I had a really good guest on Sunday night. They're going to be used to, what's the word? Bring that in. And they will use it for whatever. Digital currency has been something that's been floating around a long time. I mean, currency is digital now. I mean, very few people pay in cash anymore. It is all just numbers on a screen.
Let's see here, this one. Any thoughts on the quote-unquote soft propaganda that plays on telly 24/7? I fear it has a great effect on the normies.
Well, if we were controlling the media and pumping out alternative opinions, people's understanding of the world would be very, very different. But yeah, I mean, the Netflix specifically is like pure propaganda. And so, I mean, I don't know, does anybody even watch the BBC or Sky or ITV anymore? I don't know anybody that does, but all the programs, especially all the Hollywood programs and American ones, it's just pure propaganda. There's just no way. I mean, you can combat that. You just literally need to stop watching it, and hopefully other people will stop watching it.
Yeah, I remember I stopped watching Netflix because of the whole cuties controversy, if you remember that.
I do.
That was like a lot of people were just like, whoa, what the fuck is this? So I think, yeah, like that definitely put a lot of people off. And, yeah, I mean, myself included, the last time I used Netflix was before the whole controversy. And even seeing that, I'm just like, yeah, never again. So never again.
It's funny because you're really quite like me as well, in that, you know, I didn't wake up one day and start thinking like this. You know, there have been things that have happened
Mm.
in my life that have led me to this point, and as you say, like the cuties thing, that was a big one at the time, and whereas now my position would be just like, yeah, well, it's fucking Netflix. What do you expect? You know, whereas, and that's why it's so important. I think people have to go on this journey. They have to experience things to get them to where they are, and then you're grounded in what you believe.
Indeed, indeed. Here's another question. David, is it true climate change is caused by cows farting and burping?
Yes. No, I'm only kidding. I mean, well, there is climate change again. I mean, clearly there is some change in the temperature, but even then, again, that's very subjective. Climates naturally change all the time. Like the Romans used to grow vines in North Africa. North Africa was pretty green, and then it naturally just turned to desert. A warming climate actually is better for people. More people die in the cold than they do of excess heat. It's and thing is, you've got air conditioning now as well. But for the amount of time you would actually need it, it's just pure fear mongering. The whole man-made climate change thing's a scam. It's purely designed to extract money from rich white countries and export it to third world countries. And then a lot of people just jump on that bandwagon and make a lot of money off the back of it. It's a total scam. That doesn't mean we shouldn't look after the world, though. I mean, I am still an environmentalist. We should have green policies. We should have eco-friendly stuff. But that's totally different from man-made climate change.
I even remember, like, I kind of questioned it when I was a lot younger as well, because that was also somewhat pushed back in the day. And I remember just thinking, like, at that time, like, oh, if we don't do something about pollution and all of that, then the planet would be not extinct, but it was something like severely damaged, or like the atmosphere or something like that by this certain year. And then it just keeps on changing and changing, and I'm just like, right, that's something's not right. Something's not right with that. But
yeah, total scam. And again, they base it on historical CO2 output. So in Britain, because we had the Industrial Revolution, we've apparently put out more CO2 than India or China ever has, even though the vast majority of bloody plastics in the world come from like the River Ganges and the subcontinent. It's just a total scam and a total shakedown. That's all it is. It's garbage.
well, there we go. Climate change is a complete scam, folks. Which, you know what, I tend to believe that myself with regards to that. Any other questions to come through, folks? Anything at all? Oh, here's one from No Chance. He writes, do you think if we convince women on TikTok that Lindsay Clancy wanted mass deportations, we could win?
Well, I'm not talking to No Chance at the moment, but I'm only joking. Honestly, like, I like No Chance, but like, that's just the same as like saying if we convince everyone like an 80-year-old boomer is based, we can get him to be the prime minister. I mean, look, you can convince people of anything if they want to believe it. And I think in terms of mass deportations, why would women support mass deportations? I don't know. I don't actually know how you would do that. I think, again, we just have to kind of ignore women. Like that really is, I know it's brutal, but we just have to ignore them, and that's it. And we can respect them, we can have who they are, but we can't allow them to have any power, and that's it.
There we go. Here's one from Martin W _909. Ali McCoy, I hope I pronounced that right, says he no longer goes into Glasgow city centre. Is it worse than the 80s and 90s?
Again, that's a decent question. I mean, I remember the late 80s and early 90s, and Glasgow was pretty grim, but no, it's worse now. Like, here's the thing: you could have the worst Ned in the world, right? You could have the worst Ned who's a scumbag, blah blah blah. But at least they're one of yours. Like, at least you know them. Whereas some fucking Somalian, some Eritrean, some Ghanaian, like that, like you just don't. They're just not yours. Like, no matter how bad things always were, it was your people, your own. You could deal with them. These people aren't, and we can't deal with them. So I would say it's much, much, much worse now. And the thing is, Glasgow used to be a big place for nightlife. That's just been destroyed. People don't have the money to go out anymore. People like can't afford the taxis. Do they want to get a taxi home with some Uber guy that's going to try and rape them? Like, it's been decimated, Glasgow, but you'll still have people that live there. You'll still have liberal metropolitan elite types, etc., and that's it.
Let's see. Here's one about AI, which I think is the first time someone has asked us about AI. Hold on 1 second. This one writes, do you agree that AI is the biggest threat to robots and jobs, David Clews? I mean, to be fair, when it comes to... Oh, sorry.
You go first.
Just to say about AI, like, to be fair with that question, AI is becoming a lot more, what's the word? A lot more smarter, I guess you would say. Like compared to like a couple of years back, it's just getting a lot more, like, progressing a lot more advanced than what we've seen before, and to the point where it is getting a little bit frightening to say the least. I remember seeing Dankula kind of covering 2 videos about it where it got so smart to the point it almost like hacked a server or something like that, and it's like, whoa, that sounds like something you would see on Terminator or something like that. But I don't know. What are your thoughts, David?
I think AI will be fine depending on who's in charge of it. If it's Sam Altman and Peter Thiel, etc., who are in charge of it, then it'll be a problem. If it's our people that are in charge of it, I'm sure it'll be a force for good and humanity. I think what AI will do is it will decimate a lot of middle class jobs. Like, if you look at big accountancy or law firms, they're basically hiring no student interns or graduate vacancies anymore. You don't need people to draw up legal contracts. You don't need people to write them anymore. And you'll find that a lot of middle class jobs will be absolutely decimated by AI. And I think that's where it will really hit home. Law. It's like I always talk about like a doctor. Like, you go to a doctor. What does the doctor say? What are your symptoms? Let me check your blood pressure. A robot could do that. You just walk in and speak to a screen, and a screen could do all that for you. You literally won't need GPs. So I think a lot of real middle-class jobs will be hit really, really hard. But life will still go on. Like, when they first introduced the combine harvester, people were like, well, what do I do for a job? Or when industrialization happened. But things will adapt. And I think it will perhaps not be as, like Musk says, no one will have a job in 2 years. And I mean, I don't know if I believe that. We'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I could definitely see that because I'm kind of going back to doing a lot of art stuff, like drawing and all of that. I've said this before on my show, but I'm kind of working on like a comic book project behind the scenes, and I'm just kind of like practicing on my drawing at the moment and all of that. And every time when I'm kind of looking at this type of subject matter, you see a lot of these like artsy fartsy types who are just so hell bent on like AI, like AI is gonna like take over and all of that. And a lot of the points you present, I could definitely see that. It's just, for me, it's like, well, I don't really use AI, and to be honest, I'm not saying like I'm like the best artist or the best drawer or something like that, but you know, I think when it comes to like stuff like that, I might manage okay with it, or a lot of people who are in that field might be okay. But I mean, like I said, I think life does go on. You just have to kind of push forward when it comes to it. But
Yep. It's just one of these ones we'll just need to wait and see and adapt to it.
that's it. I did put up this comment just before. They write, you do know the truth about them. Do you know who's important these people? Barbara Lerner Specter exposed that she was bragging. I think there was a video about that recently, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, there was actually one woman in particular I saw on X. She was talking about, well, to have these migrants come over, we need to build these like brothels, or like, was it brothels, or was it like, it was something to do with like, well, if we don't give these migrants any prostitutes, then they're just going to go out and rape people. And it's like, I love how they're just so open and honest about it at this point. Like, they would gaslight the public and deny this, like, oh no, this is just like far right conspiracy theories. But now they're just coming out in the woodwork and saying, like, yeah, like if we don't have these brothels for these migrants, then they're just going to go out and rape people. It's astonishing with these people with regards to that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I covered this yet. Have I spoken about? I think I did. Like, just like the open society. I mean, that's just it. I mean, we live in the open society, which is an invention of a certain group of people, and if they hold excess positions of power, if they predominate other people in power, they will constantly push for more mass immigration, and they don't care about their host nation because it's not their country. They only care about themselves and their own specific group. And then what they also then do is they then empower these minorities to push their agenda. And it's like a human centipede of mass immigration, so to speak.
Let me see here. I've just got this one up here just now. If you're older enough, you might know someone called David Bellamy. Climate change is nothing but poppycock oats. Let's see. Here's a question for you, David. Who is David Clews' all-time favorite Celtic player?
Mo Johnson.
Well, there you go. Let me see here. Yeah, we're cash and burn. Just have a look and see if there's any more questions to come through here. But I think that was the woman I was talking about. Yeah, and some people are saying Edwina Curry, but technically her real name is, well, last name is Cohen, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Cohen. I mean, it's too much of a coincidence to say when it comes to that. But anyways, yeah, that's what it was. Edwina Curry, maiden name Cohen. That's what it was.
Yeah. I mean, seeing fairness, like she was sort of giggling about it. Like someone actually did ask that once at a meeting, and it is a salient point. Wherever you have large groups of men congregated, men have sexual needs, and it's even worse because these guys are low IQ. They see white women as, like, you know, sluts and
fresh meat. The
fresh meat, exactly, and they see them as lesser than them. And if you've ever had an army goes anywhere, there's always been women worked as prostitutes. There's always been prostitution, basically. But you've basically just put all these guys, and they don't want to talk about it. It's as I said, they're being brought here deliberately, vindictively, and as bioweapons. And they go off on the native population, and the regime doesn't care, and they're quite happy about it.
There we go. Let's see. There's another question brought up. Will Reform and Restore collaborate to oust Labour in the next general election? I think you may have covered that before.
No, they won't. Both Reform and Restore are on their way out. In fairness to Mark Call, he first pointed it out. The Tories will probably be the main opposition at the next general election. And I know people will say that's absolutely mental, but it's just true. The Tories have remained solid in the polls, 18, 19, 20%. Badenoch will just turn around and say, well, how do you stop Labour? You vote Tory. And most of the electorate aren't that smart. They'll just think, well, if I want to stop Labour, I'll vote Tory. I think Reform are finished. I think Farage is just toxic now. All this, I mean, the media have really gone after him, but he's left himself open to it. He took that 5 million donation and all this stuff about ending PIP. and attacking benefits. It's just not good politics, and they won't win seats. Whether people like it or not, we have a first past the post system, which maintains the two-party system, and it's just an incredibly difficult thing to crack.
Indeed. Here's one about Elon Musk. Let's see. Will tell Elon Musk sorry, excuse me. I'm just having. I really need glasses. Electric cars have dropped by 50%.
Yeah, no one wants them. Yeah, I mean that's people talk about what can they do. That's one good thing. Don't buy an electric car because the government wants you to. I mean, they were wanting. Was it not like all petrol cars to be phased out? 50 to 100% of cars eventually electric. People have said no, and they don't want them, and that's been really, really good because they're too expensive, and people don't trust them. They like just going and putting petrol in their car. So that's been quite a positive thing, and it is like just small acts of resistance like that everyone can engage in. Like, don't pay a TV license, don't acquiesce to authority, don't just everybody just keeps chipping away at it and sabotaging in whatever way they're comfortable with.
Indeed. Wasn't there not something, I think it was in America or somewhere like that, where they had a conversation in one of the parliaments or whatever, but they were talking about if they were to have everyone have, like, say if everyone got an electric car, they would need a lot of the battery usage, and they would need a lot of, like, basically what I'm trying to say is it would cost a lot more money to use a lot of the electricity for these cars than it would to have to put petrol in like your normal everyday cars that we have at the moment. So it's like, well, yeah, I mean, obviously no one's going to want an electric car because, as you said, it's just far too expensive. It would probably do a lot more damage than what we're seeing at the moment. But yeah, I remember seeing the Scottish government talking about that. They want rid of petrol cars by like 2035 or something like that, like which I don't know if that would be, well, I don't think that'd be really possible.
That's interesting. Fun fact from No Chance: introducing the green script to the license plate saw an increase in sales in cars because people viewed it as a status symbol. Yeah, I mean that's a really good point, and people again sometimes just forget, like, the government has this thing called a nudge unit, which basically looks at human behaviors and everything like that. And they know what to do to people. They know how to get people moving. And again, if you look at who drives electric cars, it is that metropolitan, liberal, like it is look at us, we're good people. We have a green car, unlike you filthy, gas guzzling pleb. And I think like that, this is the key thing as well, like on like remigration or on the issues of sorting the country out, it would actually be a piece of piss to do all these things. The hard part is getting in power. and I often show like a graphic of how London is just totally surrounded by US military bases. Like, we are an occupied country. So even if we did take power, like fucking Judeo-Americans would be ready to go after us. But that should be the focus, is power and control. If we had power and control, really what we could achieve is limitless. But until we have that, I'm afraid a lot of it is just talk, and talk is cheap, which I do a lot of the time. And, I am cheap because I think you've probably had more super chats than me tonight, Chief Moody, because they're a miserable bunch that support UNN.
Well, I was just going to say, I've only had one so far throughout this night, which
That's
again,
what I
I'm
mean.
very thankful for, which again...
Well, that's what I mean. I do shows and nobody gives a single super chat, the miserable buggers, honestly. They're lucky I'm intelligent and talented and also a part-time international escort, or else I wouldn't be able to do this.
There we go. Also, I just put in the chat my link for my Twitter. Well, I was going to say Twitter, my X account, because I'm back on X. Surprisingly, I don't know how I managed to get that. In fact, I've never had any notification on as to why my X account was suspended. I've never gotten a reason as to why it was, but I'm back on it. So if anyone wants to follow me that hasn't done so already on X, you can do so just now. And again, if you want to chip in like a donation or that, again, the link for my PayPal is just up there. I'm just seeing someone in the chat, Archie, saying, "Great show, Chief and David. See you Sunday, David." That's for yourself, David, with that comment as well. I'm just having just a quick look and see final time.
Can I just end with one thing, actually? I'll tell you a really interesting thing happened today. So the total debt for the United States of America hit 40 trillion. It's doubled in the last 4 years. And what's actually happening now is that the US Treasury, so the bonds are how the government funds itself. The US Treasury is now actually having to buy its own bonds. So there's no sellers. So in order to fund the government, the American government is going to have to print money to fund itself. I still kind of don't fully get it. It's complex stuff, but basically, like, the whole financial system is just a massive pyramid scheme, and it's reaching the end. Like, the only way that they can maintain the system is by keeping to print money, and if they keep printing money, it just becomes worthless, and that's when they lose power. So keep an eye on, like, the bond markets. Keep an eye on it, because these things, no matter how hard the government try, they are based on human emotion and behavior. So they can't control it. And eventually the debt bubbles will implode. And my prediction and others is that it's 2030s that'll happen, or late 2028, 29. And then, do you know what? Game on, because that'll be 100 years since the last sort of rupture we saw across Europe.
Indeed. Right, well, that is approaching 10:30. So I don't see any more questions coming through, which, again, that's totally fine and dandy with that. So, David, do you have to go at this point in time?
I do. I need to go out and run for 10Ks and do 100 press-ups.
Excellent. Well,
at least in my head. At least in my head, I do. See how I can just see how you can just bullshit people and they would fall for it. Like, people probably believe that. No, I'm going to go to my bed. I'm knackered.
No, that's fair enough. But David, thank you very much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
I'll get you on in a future episode and so on. But until then, thank you very much. You have a great night, sir.
No, I really appreciate that. And you know what? Thanks for having me on. I very rarely get asked these days, so I'm always happy to hear the sound of my own voice. I'll speak to you later, Chief Moody. Good night, sir.
Good night. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Excellent. Well, that was David Clews from Unity News Network, and I just seeing the viewer count. I guarantee that's going to drop massively because David is not on the show with that. But anyways, guys, I'm going to end the show there as well, and I want to say thank you all very much for coming along. I know a lot of you are new to the channel. I'm mainly here because of David, but for those that have stayed with the show, thank you very much for coming along. Definitely follow me on YouTube. I'll probably be uploading this episode onto my Rumble, so if you haven't followed me on Rumble, what to do is actually follow me on Telegram and follow me on X. Again, the link is in if I'll post a link just in case if people have missed it. So there's the link for my X account. If you haven't followed me there, definitely give me a follow just now. And Telegram, I'll probably post that in my X again. So definitely give me a follow there, and I'll post my Telegram account on X as well. So, but until then, I will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. It won't be like a long show. It will probably just like a little update type of thing on what I've been doing, and I'll probably cover a couple things as well that I haven't managed to cover on the show tonight. But again, thank you very much for watching. Again, if you want to leave a donation or so, the link to my PayPal is probably the best option to send a donation if you want, which is just up there as a pinned comment. Any donation received tonight, that would be greatly appreciated with that just now. So again, yeah, great channel, first time view, have subscribed. Thank you very much, Roger. Thank you very much for watching and sub to the channel. In terms of like streaming, again, I'll continue on streaming on YouTube. If anything happens to my YouTube for whatever reason, I'll move to Rumble at some point in the near future. But I'll talk about that as well in tomorrow's episode, which will be I'll be back tomorrow live at 7 p.m. UK time. That would be 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, follow me on Telegram. I'll make a post about that as well. I also will post about it on my X as well. But until then, thank you all very much for watching. This is Chief Moody signing out. You have been watching the Mood of the Nation podcast, and I will see you all in the next episode. Take care, stay safe, enjoy your evening, enjoy the day for tomorrow, and I'll see you all on tomorrow's episode. Thank you all, and good night. Take care.